All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, with today's 34-31 overtime win over the Indianapolis Colts, the Tennessee Titans have all but sealed up their second consecutive AFC South title. The Titans are now 6-2 while the Colts are the closest contender in this division with a mark of 3-5. And once you factor in that the Titans have now swept the Colts this season, it actually factors into a 4-game lead for the Titans. Now, credit to the Titans today because they went on the road and they had a very big dominating win over the Kansas City Chiefs at home last Sunday. And they came out and they took the Colts' best shot. Indianapolis was up 14 to nothing early on in this contest, but the Titans never wavered from their game plan, and they were able to come back and tie it up late in the first half. Then the Colts did take the 17-14 lead into the locker room at the half. But then I think the Titans really made a statement to begin the second half as they held the football for more than 7 minutes and they marched on and got a touchdown to give themselves their first lead of the day at 21-17. On top of that, we saw this defense step up today. They forced two big interceptions of Colts quarterback Carson Wentz, which resulted in 10 key points. Of course, first, we saw Carson Wentz in his end zone try to force the football out, and it went right into the hands of Elijah Molden for a touchdown. Then just before the game-winning field goal by Randy Bullock, it was set up by an interception from Kevin Byard. And you look at it now, the Colts came into this game, they focused on stopping running back Derrick Henry, and that's usually what most people do when it comes to facing the Titans and trying to slow down their offense. And they did that. They did not allow Derrick Henry to have that big game and those big runs today. But nonetheless, AJ Brown stepped up with 10 grabs for a buck 55, and that was a big difference in this contest today. Mike Vrabel, the Titans head coach, he has his finger on the pulse of this team. He has them ready to go. And after their slow start this season, we saw the Titans get embarrassed at home in week number 1 versus the Arizona Cardinals. And then we saw them have a shocking loss a couple of weeks ago to the New York Jets. I know that the Titans were dealing with a slew of injuries heading into that game, but nonetheless, they lost. But the bottom line is this: Mike Vrabel has his team ready to play. We saw them beat the AFC East leading Buffalo Bills a couple of weeks ago, and then, of course, dominating the Kansas City Chiefs. And now they've come back and all but wrapped up their division. And we are still in the month of October. And, looking forward now, if you're the Titans, you can think about not only playoff seeding, but possibly being the number 1 seed in the AFC, because you look at it like I talked about previously today, the AFC North is going to beat up on each other. And when you look at the AFC West, somebody at some point is going to take control of this division. But I mean, you look at it, the Chargers, I know that a lot of people are high on the Chargers following some big wins this season. They're going to be in the mix, but I'm not fully sold on them. The Raiders are getting back on track. I'm still not ready to write off Kansas City in spite of all of their struggles this year. But with that said, you look at what the Titans have ahead of them. They still have games against Jacksonville and Houston, who are two of the worst teams in the NFL. They don't have to worry about the Colts anymore. They do have some heavyweights from the league coming up in consecutive weeks. The Titans will now face the Los Angeles Rams and New Orleans Saints in back-to-back games. And in week number 12, Tennessee will find themselves on the road to face the New England Patriots. Now, one thing that the Titans do have going in their favor, their bye does not come until week number 13, and that could be important. Why? Because you want to have a fresh team coming down the stretch. More importantly, you want to have a fresh Derrick Henry heading into the postseason, because as Derrick Henry goes, so do the Tennessee Titans. And this is one thing that I worried about with the Titans coming into this season is the workload that Derrick Henry has had in previous years. I mean, in the last 2 years alone, he's combined for nearly 700 carries. That's a lot of carries. And I know that we talk about the physicality that Derrick Henry brings to the running back position. But nonetheless, if you can have a fresh Derrick Henry coming down the stretch, that is a very big thing for the Titans going forward, and it's only going to enhance their chances. Mike Vrabel, credit to him. Some of us thought he was crazy when he basically got rid of his entire secondary after last season, with the exception of Kevin Byard. Started over from scratch. He's added more presence in the pass rush. We've seen the presence of Bud Dupree, the former Pittsburgh Steeler, and how it's been able to open up things for the likes of Harold Landry up front. And this Titans team is going to be a very, very formidable and very dangerous team come January. I know that Julio Jones is not the Julio Jones that he was a couple of years ago with the injuries, but nonetheless, the Titans still went out there and made the move for him from the Atlanta Falcons. And if they can get a 70% Julio Jones come January, I think that's going to be big because, just like how it was last year in the playoffs when the Titans lost at home to the Baltimore Ravens, teams are really going to try to stack the box and force Ryan Tannehill to beat them. So this is something that the Titans are definitely going to have to do going forward. But nonetheless, coming back to the present, they've all but wrapped up the AFC South. Now they can get their focus on bigger and better things. And this Titans team, as long as Derrick Henry is healthy, will once again be a very dangerous team come January. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.